They're using Hamas as an excuse to kill children.
They invade the country, militarily invade Israel and put an end to it.
We have to call Netanyahu a terrorist.
How can people be in power that say it's okay to bomb kids?
Armed resistance is allowed.
We will stand against that. We will prevent another Holocaust.
My uncle always told me, don't talk about three things: religion, politics, and I'm not going to say it the last time. It's too easy. Sadly for him, we have to talk about one of these things today. Don't worry, uncle. It's just politics. You may have seen on the news, Israel and Palestine. But what does the UK actually think? We're going to find out today. Let's get political.
We have a dictator in Israel.
What do you think about Benjamin Netanyahu?
Benjamin Netanyahu is a terrorist.
Fascist dictator and leader.
He's a war criminal. He's a hypocrite.
A psychotic, bloodthirsty, deranged mass murderer.
So strong word.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
They're using their civilians as human shields.
Who is Benjamin Netanyahu? Prime Minister of Israel and head of the attack on Gaza. Since the start of Israel, over 20,000 Palestinians have been killed, 15,000 of which was after October 7th, Israel's most recent attack. Netanyahu has faced backlash from both the international community and within Israel. Some people calling for him to be tried as a war criminal.
He needs to be held accountable. They need to take him to the courts and show that what he's done is illegal.
He's got to keep the war going, otherwise he's in jail. If it ended tomorrow, he'd be in jail.
We like to call Putin a terrorist, and we see how much injustice is caused. So we know, based upon evidence, whatever's happening in Palestine at the moment, we have to call Netanyahu a terrorist.
But to some, he's a hero, exacting revenge on Hamas for October 7th.
Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has found himself under increasing pressure over the Israel-Palestine conflict. Starmer was quick to show support for Israel, stating the responsibility for the crisis lies with Hamas, and that Israel has the right to defend itself, and later appeared to claim that Israel even had the right to withhold water from Gaza.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
After the SNP called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, Starmer signalled that Labour MPs who voted for the ceasefire might be sacked, and then faced a rebellion from 56 of his MPs. The Labour leader faced particular opposition in Birmingham, where thousands marched to protest the war and demand the sacking of pro-Israel MPs. Starmer's support in this once very pro-Labour area now seems rather sketchy.
Birmingham has historically been a Labour stronghold, with Labour running the council since 2012. However, with recent events, Keir Starmer and the Labour government's popularity has seen a major decline. Keir Starmer.
Oh, pig, dickhead. Roast him in the oven.
What do you think about Keir Starmer and the Labour government?
They're supporters of the terrorists.
I think to call them morally delinquent isn't anywhere near strong enough.
Sold the Labour Party to the Zionists.
It's not humane to be able to look at the TV, see innocent children dying, and not want to make a stand up against it. What they are practically saying is it is okay to continue killing innocent children.
Labour Party has always been an imperialist party, which for 100 years has meant being a Zionist party.
Our MPs are supposed to be representing us, and if the people are coming out saying that we want a ceasefire, the MPs need to open their eyes, wake up, see what's happening in Palestine, and represent us and what we want as the people.
What are your feelings towards Birmingham Labour MPs voting to abstain from a ceasefire?
Disgusting. Disgusting.
No one can stand in the face of a genocide ongoing and say, oh well, I'm staying out of it.
How can people be in power that say it's okay to bomb kids? How can those people be ruling us?
People often ask, what would you have done if you had been in Germany in the run-up to the Holocaust? Would you have stood up to the people creating that society where eventually it led to a Holocaust? And so many say, no, I would have stood up, I would have done something. Our politicians and our leaders aren't doing that, but the people are. The people are standing up and saying, we see what's happening, and we will stand against that. We will prevent another Holocaust.
We can't talk about the conflict in Gaza without mentioning one name in particular: Hamas. Hamas is the governing body of the Gaza Strip, a part of Palestine occupied by Israel according to the United Nations, though Israel denies this. Far more militant than their equivalent in the West Bank, the PLO, Hamas advocate for armed resistance to the occupation and were responsible for the October 7th attack on Israel and hostage-taking. The organisation came to power in Gaza after being elected in 2006 and have remained in power since despite a lack of further elections. Hamas are recognised as a terrorist organisation by countries like the UK and US, but to many people they are freedom fighters resisting an illegal occupation.
Freedom fighters?
Resistance fighters.
A lot of people would call them terrorists. Why'd you call them resistance fighters?
Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Now look.
What do you think about Hamas?
I'm no member of Hamas, but there is no Hamas in the West Bank.
Yeah.
There's no Hamas in the West Bank, and they're killing children in the West Bank. There was no Hamas before 1987, and there was killing children before 1987. They're using Hamas as an excuse to kill children. Hamas is a smoke screen for them to kill children and take over land.
It's simple. People has been under pressure for 75 years. They have to speak.
Yeah.
And they've been speaking peacefully, nobody listened to them, and you obviously can see that. And finally, they did something.
They're not terrorists. International law says that as an occupied people, they are fully entitled to create instances and to defend themselves and attack the occupying force. Israel is, by international law, the occupying force. They do not have the right to defend themselves against the people that they are occupying. That's international law.
One thing we have to say is that this did not start on October the 7th. Hamas, whatever you want to talk about in terms of other political organizations, the Palestinian innocent children have been suffering for 75 years. So regardless what your opinion is with political organizations, we are here for the rights of the Palestinian children who have been suffering for 75 years.
Gazans are entitled to resist the occupation. They're allowed to be armed. Armed resistance is allowed. So they're not terrorists. They can't be terrorists.
Yeah, okay.
They're resistance fighters.
You can't kill an idea. You can't kill an idea of freedom. We knew that back home in Belfast and in Ireland as a whole. We had uprisings and they were put down, but it never died. That desperate need for freedom. You will not kill the desire for freedom, no matter how many people you kill. That desire and that idea will never die.
An unstoppable force versus an immovable object. It begs the question, how does this end? How do you see this ending?
I think the only possible solution is some of the neighbouring countries, for instance Egypt and Turkey, they invade the country. They declare war and they militarily invade Israel and put an end to it. I don't think there's any reasoning with the Israeli Parliament or the Israeli people. And I say that because you look at the settlers, there's a huge amount of hatred, always has been associated with those taking the lands and the lives of the Palestinian people. Knowing my own experience of generations for 800 years of colonial occupation and knowing the mindset, I know that you cannot get them to change.
Who knows how it's going to end? Israel's plan is to clear the West Bank and Gaza of all Palestinians. Either they're going to be moved out or they're going to be murdered. One state living together. Get rid of the Zionists who are there to divide and rule. They're not interested in justice. They're not interested in the Jewish people even. They're just interested in money, greed. Palestinians and Jews have lived together for generations. They can carry on living together.
In a perfect world, to end this situation is bring Benjamin Netanyahu to court. He needs to be held accountable for everything he's done, and ultimately we want Palestine to be free. We want them to have their own government. We want them to have their own voice, because right now they've been denied everything. They've been stopped from having water, food, which is basic necessities that every human needs. So ultimately we want Palestine to be free of the illegal occupation that's going on.
Even if there was a two-state solution, the Palestinians won't be given their rights. They won't have their own government. They won't have their own airport. They won't have their own military service that isn't run by the Israelis. If there is an option to have a two-state solution where the Palestinians have their own government, they have their own armies, they have their own airports, they're able to control their own land, then we can have the discussions. But at the moment, the IDF don't want that.
Since the Nakba in 48, Israel has continued an assault on the people of Palestine, outrageous and inhumane. In my mind, they are looking to either cleanse by forcing them out or kill them all. As for the West Bank, there's practically nothing left of it. I believe at least 5,000 additional people were imprisoned since the 7th of October. They've been interned. They're imprisoned without trial. They're tortured there as well, kept there for years with no charge, no idea when, if ever, they're going to get out. I think we've seen the bloodlust of Israel, and I don't think that's going to be stopped. They are continually facilitated in this by America. So the only way this can end is for outside actors to make their move and to end the war militarily, launch a full-scale offensive against Israel. I believe in a one state, the state of Palestine.
Look, we stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. We don't have a problem with Jews. We have a problem with the Israeli Zionists, who are the ones who are causing oppression upon innocent Palestinian people. We've got Jewish rabbis who come and speak at our events as well. And just like Happy's saying, it's not anti-Semitic to stand with the Palestinians. It wants to make you humans. And if this can be happening even in this country, we know that we stand up against injustice, even if it's against our own people as well.